Now then, let us begin by stating very clearly and for the record that nothing inappropriate is about to occur. This is a story intended for rest, for calm, for the gentle lowering of the mind into something softer, quieter, and, above all, respectable. You are safe. You are comfortable. And there is absolutely no reason whatsoever for your thoughts to wander anywhere untoward. None at all. Take a moment now to settle. Adjust yourself. Purely for comfort, of course. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. Allow your breathing to slow as though the day itself has finally agreed to leave you alone. There we are. I should warn you, however, that the mind can be the most uncooperative thing once it believes it's being unwatched. And tonight, we shall be watching it closely. I find myself seated, once again, in the armchair by the window. The good one. The one that sighs ever so slightly when you sit down, as though relieved to have some company. The lamp beside me casts a warm, forgiving light. Precisely the sort of light that hides imperfections and encourages reflection. Outside, the rain taps politely against the glass. Not urgently, not dramatically. Just enough to remind one that the world is continuing without asking anything of us. On the small table to my right sits a cup of tea. It has gone cold. This is not important. We will not read anything into it. Still, one does notice these things. I clear my throat. Not because it needs clearing, but because it feels prudent. Now, the purpose of this evening's rest. I have decided this very firmly. Rest is good for the mind, good for the body, and absolutely essential for keeping one's thoughts in line. Because thoughts, left unchecked, have a tendency to drift. For example, earlier today, while standing in a queue, perfectly ordinary circumstances, mind you, I became aware of a presence behind me. Not aware in any meaningful sense, you understand? Merely conscious. There was nothing improper about it. It was simply the faint scent of perfume. Something understated, tasteful. The sort of thing one only notices after it has passed. Entirely irrelevant. And yet, the mind, traitor that it is, insists on revisiting the moment. One wonders why. I shake my head gently as if to dislodge the thought. It does not leave immediately. Thoughts rarely do when asked politely. But that is quite enough of that. We are here now. Safe. Calm. With no cues, no strangers, and no lingering sense to complicate matters. I take a sip of the tea anyway. Yes. Cold. Still drinkable. Moving on. There is something about the evening, about the gradual softening of sound, that makes one reflective. The day loosens its grip. Conversations fade. Obligations retreat into tomorrow where they belong. And in the quiet that remains, the mind begins tidying. It sorts through moments, examines them, decides which are worthy of being kept and which might be quietly revisited. For instance, a conversation, entirely innocent, a colleague, perhaps, or an acquaintance, the sort of person one has spoken to dozens of times without incident. They said my name. That is all. Names are said constantly. This is not noteworthy. And yet, there was something about the way it was spoken. Not improper, not deliberate, just unhurried. One notices these things when one is tired. I adjust myself in the chair again. The fabric creases. The chair sighs. It understands. There is no need to dwell on this. We are not the sort of people who dwell. Still, the mind, having found something interesting, refuses to be rushed. It replays the sound, softly, without context. And that, I think, is where the danger lies. Context is what keeps things respectable. Without it, well, we shall restore order shortly. I glance at the clock. Time has passed, apparently without consulting me. It does that sometimes. This is good. This means we are settling. You may notice your breath has slowed further now. The heaviness in the limbs, the pleasant kind, not the alarming kind, is beginning to set in. Excellent. This is exactly when thoughts like to test boundary. Do you know, I once read that the brain is the most imaginative just before sleep. A fascinating detail, entirely academic. It explains, perhaps, why the mind chooses this moment to recall things it insists meant nothing at the time. A glance held half a second longer than necessary. A laugh that lingered. Harmless. Perfectly harmless. And yet, the mind asks questions the waking hours are too busy to entertain. What if? What might have been said? What would one have done if... No, we shall not finish that sentence. Some sentences are better left incomplete. I place the teacup down, finally admitting defeat on that front. There are limits to civility. The room feels warmer now. Or perhaps that is simply the effect of stillness. One notices the weight of one's clothing, the way fabric rests against the skin. Nothing remarkable about that. Clothing does that. Still, one becomes aware of it in a way that one is not during the day. There is something about that encourages awareness. Awareness is not a crime. One must remember that. We are allowed to notice things. We are simply not obliged to act upon them. The distinction is important, vital, even. I smile faintly to myself at this very sensible conclusion. The mind does not argue. Not immediately, at least. You may find, as you listen, that your own thoughts are beginning to soften, that they drift in and out without demanding attention. Good. Let them. If an image arises vague, unfinished, there is no need to examine it too closely. It will fade on its own. They always do. Unless encouraged. We shall not encourage. I take a slow breath. In through the nose. Hold it. Then let it go gently. Again. There we are. I recall now a dream I once had. Not recently, some time ago. It was one of those dreams that begins in the middle of things with no explanation. There was conversation, soft, indistinct. The kind where tone matters more than words. I remember feeling at ease, safe. There may have been closeness. Not physical, necessarily, just proximity. The sort that warms without touching. If the dream continued beyond that, I cannot say. I do not recall. And even if I did, well, dreams are private things. They need not be examined. The clock ticks on. The rain continues its quiet negotiation with the night, and the chair, faithful thing, supports me without complaint. I suspect, dear listener, that you are beginning to feel it now. That gentle pull, the one that asks you to let go just a little more. You may find your thoughts drifting into half-formed ideas, fragments of memory. Nothing sharp, nothing demanding. If something suggestive passes through the mind, allow it to do so without judgment. 'Tis merely a thought. It cannot harm you, and it will not stay. I allow myself to close my eyes for a moment, just to rest them. Darkness behind the lids is soft, forgiving. There is no need to picture anything clearly. Blurs are fine. In fact, blurs are preferable. If a voice echoes there, pleasant, familiar, That is quite all right. Voices, too, are harmless things, especially when they say nothing at all. One mustn't be too hard on oneself. That is something I have learned. A disciplined mind is a fine thing, but even discipline requires rest. And rest, occasionally, comes with side effects. Small rebellions. Nothing scandalous. Just reminders that we are alive, human, and wonderfully imperfect. I smile again, feeling sleep approach now in earnest. It is a polite thing, sleep. It does not rush. It waits until invited. So I invited. You may do the same. Let your body grow heavier. Let the chair or the bed take the full measure of you. There is nothing left to consider tonight. No decisions to be made, no thoughts that require resolution. Even the improper ones can be forgiven. They will behave themselves soon enough. They always do, once we are asleep. And so, with the rain keeping watch, and the night holding us gently, we rest. Peacefully. Respectably. And if the mind wanders just a little on its way down, well, that is entirely normal.